Lonely nurse was sent to the cold Millionaire'S suite, and he trembled when she said, "This is my first time." Cole's face went white as hospital sheets. His hands, steady enough to sign billion-dollar deals, started shaking. Because 3 years ago, another nurse had stood in another room and said those exact same words. Have you ever walked into a room and felt completely out of place? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The most powerful man in Manhattan was about to break his one unbreakable rule: never let anyone get close enough to hurt him again. But the young nurse, standing in his penthouse doorway, clutching medical supplies with trembling hands, had just spoken the exact words that killed the last woman he loved. What Cole Maddox didn't know was that Keisha Williams wasn't there by accident. She was there for revenge, carrying secrets that would either save his soul or destroy his empire. Have you ever heard words that transported you back to your worst heartbreak? Have you ever met someone who reminded you of everything you lost? Do you know someone whose first meeting changed their entire life? This is the story of two people whose first encounter was orchestrated by fate, grief, and a decades-old cover-up that would change everything. Cole Maddox earned his nickname, the Iceman, by firing half his staff without blinking, by closing deals that crushed competitors, by never showing emotion. But when Keisha whispered, "This is my first time," while preparing his four, something cracked inside his frozen heart. Because those are the exact same words his first love had said before she died in his arms. The question isn't whether they'll fall in love, it's whether they'll survive the truth about why she was really sent to him. Because sometimes the person meant to heal you is the same one destined to destroy everything you've built. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. She knocked on the door that would either heal her family's pain or destroy the last shred of innocence she had left. Keisha Williams clutched her medical bag tighter as the elevator climbed 40 floors above Manhattan. Room 4012 wasn't supposed to exist. Private penthouse suites weren't part of regular hospital rotations. But here she was, fresh from Montgomery, Alabama, on her very first traveling nurse assignment, being sent to treat the city's most feared billionaire. The elevator doors opened to reveal luxury beyond her imagination. The penthouse suite stretched before her like a museum of wealth. Marble floors that reflected her secondhand sneakers, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan like a painting she could never afford to own. Crystal chandeliers caught afternoon light, throwing rainbows across walls that probably cost more than her mama's entire house. "Mr. Maddox," she called softly, southern accent thick with nerves. "I'm here for your four treatment." Silence answered her. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, expensive shoes against marble. Cole Maddox emerged from the shadows like something carved from ice and arrogance. 6'3" of controlled power in a black silk shirt that probably cost her monthly salary. His eyes were the color of winter storms, sharp enough to cut glass, cold enough to freeze blood. But when those eyes met hers, something shifted. His phone clattered to the floor. "I'm Keisha Williams," she managed, heart hammering against her ribs. "The agency sent me. This is my first time doing private house calls, so please be patient with me." The words hung in the air like a curse. Cole's face went white as hospital sheets. His hands, steady enough to sign billion-dollar deals, started shaking. Because 3 years ago, another nurse had stood in another room and said those exact same words. Sarah Mitchell had been 24, fresh out of nursing school, with gentle hands and a smile that could melt winter itself. Sarah had also been dead within 6 months. "This is my first time," Keisha repeated, misinterpreting his silence as impatience. She bent to unpack her supplies, and Cole's breath caught. The way she moved, careful, competent, caring, was identical to Sarah's grace. But where Sarah had been pale as moonlight, this woman's skin held Alabama sunshine. Where Sarah's eyes had been blue as trust, this woman's were brown as secrets. "Sir, are you all right?" Keisha straightened, concern replacing nervousness. "You look like you've seen a ghost." If only she knew. Cole forced his business mask back into place, but his voice came out rougher than intended. "You remind me of someone." Someone important. I get that a lot, she replied with practiced ease. Southern nurses, we all have the same training. Same bedside manner, I suppose. As she prepared his four with steady hands, Cole studied her face. There was something familiar beyond the nursing uniform, something that tickled the edge of memory. When she reached for his medical file, a photograph slipped out, a picture of an older black woman in hospital scrubs, same gentle smile, same caring eyes. Have you ever walked into a room and felt completely out of place? When has a simple phrase triggered memories you thought you'd buried? Drop a comment below and tell me about a time when fate seemed to be pulling the strings. Cole's eyes widened as he stared at the photograph. Where did you get this? He saw a dead woman standing in his living room, and for the first time in 10 years, Cole Maddox felt something other than ice in his veins. The photograph trembled in Keisha's hands. It showed a woman who could have been her twin, 20 years older, wearing the same hospital scrubs, standing in the same medical facility where Cole's first love had died. That's my Aunt Rose, Keisha whispered, voice barely audible. She passed 2 years ago. Cancer. The lie came easily. She practiced it 1,000 times. But the truth was far more complicated and infinitely more dangerous. Memory crashed over Cole like a wave. Sarah in identical scrubs, same gentle hands, same soft voice asking if he was comfortable. But this woman's skin held Alabama sunshine, and her eyes carried secrets Sarah never had. The resemblance was impossible to ignore, like God was playing some cosmic joke on his frozen heart. Rose Williams, he said slowly, testing the name on his tongue. She worked at Metropolitan General. Keisha's hands stilled on the 4 tubing. You knew her. Everyone knew Rose. She was... Cole paused, choosing his words carefully. She was special. One of those rare people who made the world better just by being in it. What he didn't say was that Rose Williams had also been asking dangerous questions about pharmaceutical trials. Questions that made his family nervous. Questions that stopped abruptly when she died. She raised me after my parents passed, Keisha continued, focusing on her work to avoid his piercing stare. Taught me everything about nursing, about caring for people who couldn't care for themselves. The 4 needles slipped into his arm with barely a pinch, professional competence that impressed him despite everything. Her movements were fluid, confident, like a dancer who'd memorized every step. But it was the way she touched him, careful, respectful, as if his comfort actually mattered, that made his chest tighten. You have good hands, he said, voice dropping lower than intended. Gentle. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the penthouse disappeared. No marble floors or crystal chandeliers. No billion-dollar empire or Alabama poverty. Just 2 people recognizing something familiar in each other, something that felt like coming home. Thank you, she breathed, cheeks warming under his intense gaze. Her pulse jumped where his fingers accidentally brushed her wrist, and she wondered if he could feel her heart racing through her skin. Cole cleared his throat, business mask sliding back into place. The treatment usually takes an hour. Make yourself comfortable. There's coffee in the kitchen, anything you need. But as she settled into the leather chair beside his medical bag organized with military precision, Cole found himself watching her instead of checking emails. The way she hummed softly while working, the gentle way she asked about his pain levels, the unconscious grace in every movement. Do you believe in signs from the universe? When someone walks into your life who feels familiar, is it coincidence or fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ms. Williams, he said as she prepared to leave, would you be available for follow-up treatments? I find consistency comforting. She smiled, and for the first time since Sarah's death, Cole Maddox felt warmth instead of ice in his chest. I'd like that, Mr. Maddox. I'd like that very much. The moment she mentioned her aunt's name, Cole realized his past wasn't just haunting him, it was hunting him. 3 days later, Keisha returned with questions that made Cole's blood run cold. She'd spent the weekend researching, digging through medical records and newspaper archives, following breadcrumbs that led to his family's pharmaceutical empire. I need to ask you something, she said, settling into the now familiar chair beside his bed. Rain drummed against the windows 40 stories above the city, creating a cocoon of intimacy in a vast penthouse. But the storm outside was nothing compared to the one brewing between them. "Ask away." Cole tried to keep his voice neutral, but his hands clenched unconsciously. "My Aunt Rose was part of a clinical trial 3 years ago. Experimental cancer treatment through Maddox Pharmaceutical." She pulled out a manila folder thick with documentation. "The trial was shut down after several participants died, including Rose." The folder hit his marble coffee table like a judge's gavel. Cole's throat went dry. He'd hoped this day would never come, prayed that Rose Williams' niece would never connect the dots. But here she sat, brown eyes blazing with righteous fury, demanding answers he couldn't give without destroying everything. "Clinical trials carry risks," he said carefully. "Participants understand. Rose didn't die from cancer." Keisha interrupted, voice shaking with controlled rage. "The autopsy showed organ failure consistent with drug toxicity. The same toxicity that killed 5 other trial participants. All poor, all black, all expendable." She leaned forward, close enough that he could smell her lavender perfume mixing with the storm-charged air. Close enough to see tears she was fighting back. Close enough to touch, if he dared. "My Aunt Rose was the strongest woman I knew," she continued, voice breaking. "She survived poverty, racism, and stage 3 cancer. She didn't just die. Someone killed her spirit first, then her body." Cole stood abruptly, walking to his safe across the room. His reflection in the black screen looked haunted, guilty, because Keisha was right. Rose Williams hadn't died from cancer. She died from asking too many questions about why poor patients were receiving different medications than wealthy ones. "If I show you what I know about your aunt's case," he said, his back to her, fingers hovering over the safe's combination, "there's no going back. For either of us." The safe clicked open, revealing files that could destroy his family's empire and potentially clear Rose's name. But sharing them would also put Keisha in mortal danger. Because the Maddox family didn't just silence whistleblowers, they eliminated them. "Are you sure you want the truth?" he asked, turning to face her with documents that could change everything. Keisha's chin lifted with determination that reminded him achingly of her aunt. "I've wanted the truth for 2 years. The question is, are you brave enough to give it to me? Have you ever had to investigate something that could hurt someone you were starting to care about? How do you balance justice with growing feelings? Tell me in the comments what you would do." Thunder crashed as she stood to meet him halfway, and Cole realized that this Southern nurse with secrets in her eyes was about to turn his carefully controlled world completely upside down. Some secrets are buried so deep that digging them up destroys everything above ground, including the people you've learned to love. Documents spread across Cole's dining table like pieces of a deadly puzzle, each page a breadcrumb leading to a truth that would change everything. Medical records, pharmaceutical reports, financial transfers. Evidence of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of his family's empire. "Your aunt wasn't just asking questions," Cole said, voice heavy with guilt he'd carried for 3 years. "She was collecting evidence. Real evidence. Names, dates, financial records proving that poor patients were receiving diluted medications while wealthy patients got the full-strength treatments." Keisha's hands shook as she read through the files. Each page revealed another layer of corruption, another betrayal of trust. Her aunt hadn't died from experimental treatment gone wrong. She'd been murdered for threatening to expose a system designed to profit from human suffering. The trial coordinator knew Rose was documenting everything. Cole continued, unable to meet her eyes. "So they switched her medication, gave her something that would cause organ failure, but looked like cancer complications. Your family killed her," Keisha whispered, the words cutting through him like broken glass. "No," Cole replied, voice cracking. "My family paid people to let her die. There's a difference." The distinction felt meaningless in the face of Rose's unnecessary death, but it was the only thread of morality Cole could cling to. He hadn't known about the murders, had been deliberately kept in the dark by a father who knew his son's conscience would never allow such things. Keisha stood abruptly, pacing to the windows overlooking Manhattan. The city lights blurred through her tears, and Cole felt something break inside his chest. He'd spent years building walls around his heart, but this southern nurse with her aunt's eyes was demolishing them brick by brick. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked without turning around. "Why risk everything to tell me the truth?" Cole moved behind her, close enough to smell her lavender perfume, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her skin. When she didn't pull away, he placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Because you deserve to know, because Rose deserved better, and because—" He paused, struggling with words he'd never said aloud. "Because I'm falling in love with you, and I can't build something real on a foundation of lies." She turned in his arms, brown eyes searching his face for deception, finding only raw honesty and pain that matched her own. The space between them crackled with electricity, grief mixing with attraction in a combination that should have been wrong but felt inevitable. "This changes everything," she breathed. "I know, your family will never forgive you for betraying them." "I know that too." Her phone buzzed against the table. A text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or join your aunt." Cole saw it over her shoulder, and his blood turned to ice. "Pack your bags," he said grimly, protective instincts overriding everything else. "You're staying here tonight, and maybe longer." When you discover someone you care about is connected to your pain, do you run or fight? What would you do in this situation? Drop your thoughts below. The hunter had become the hunted, and their love story was about to become a fight for survival. She moved into the home of her enemy to stay alive, not knowing that sleeping under his roof would awaken desires she'd never allowed herself to feel. The guest bedroom Cole offered her was larger than her entire apartment back home. Silk sheets whispered luxury against her skin, and floor-to-ceiling windows made her feel like she was sleeping in the clouds. But it was the way he'd left fresh towels folded just so, the way he'd stocked the bathroom with products that match her skin tone, that made her heart race. "Coffee." His voice carried through the penthouse the next morning. Keisha found him in the kitchen, hair still damp from a shower, wearing nothing but dark jeans that hung low on his hips. Steam rose from 2 perfect cups, and she tried not to stare at the way morning light carved shadows across his chest. "You didn't have to do this," she said, accepting the mug. Their fingers brushed, and electricity shot up her arm. "Yes, I did." His green eyes held hers. "Someone threatened you because of me. That makes you my responsibility. I'm not some damsel in distress." "No." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his soap, feel his warmth. "You're the strongest woman I've ever met. But even strong women deserve someone watching their back." The way he said it, low and rough, made her stomach flutter. She'd never had anyone protect her before. Her whole life, she'd been the protector, taking care of Mama, working extra shifts to pay for nursing school, fighting for patients who couldn't fight for themselves. "What happens when this is over?" she asked. Cole reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His thumb traced her cheek, and she leaned into his touch without thinking. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I don't want to find out what life feels like without you in it." Before she could respond, voices echoed from the living room. Cole's entire body went rigid. "Stay here," he ordered, but she was already following him. 2 men in expensive suits stood by his windows, their backs to them. When they turned, their faces were cold, familiar. She recognized them from news articles about the Maddox family empire. "Cole," the older one said, his voice like ice. "We need to talk." "About what, Uncle Richard?" Richard's eyes found Keisha, and she felt naked under his stare. "About your house guest. She's becoming a problem. She's not going anywhere. The family disagrees." The second man stepped forward. "This woman is threatening everything we've built. Our lawyers say." "I don't care what your lawyers say." Cole moved in front of Keisha, shielding her with his body. "She stays." Richard's smile was sharp as a blade. "Cole, you're thinking with the wrong head. Fix this situation, or we will." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." After they left, Cole turned to her, his face pale but determined. "Pack whatever you need from your apartment," he said. "You're not just staying the night anymore. Have you ever felt someone's protection wrap around you like armor?" What did you realize someone would fight their own family for you? Let me know in the comments. But that night, as Keisha tried to sleep in sheets that smelled like safety, she heard Cole on the phone. His voice was low, angry, but she caught every word. I don't care what it costs. Find out everything about the people threatening her. And Richard, if he comes near her again, I'll forget we share the same blood. The night she stopped seeing him as the enemy was the same night he stopped being able to let her go. Chinese takeout containers sat forgotten on the coffee table as conversation flowed between them like wine. City lights created a backdrop of stars beyond his windows, and candles flickered across the living room, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Tell me about Alabama, Cole said, settling beside her on the couch. Close enough that she could feel his warmth, far enough that she didn't feel trapped. Not much to tell. Small town, everybody knows everybody. She tucked her legs under her, wine making her bold. What about you? What was little Cole Maddox like? His laugh was bitter. Lonely. My parents were always working, always traveling. I learned early that money buys everything except the things that actually matter. Like what? Like someone who stays when things get hard. His eyes found hers. Like someone who sees you, not just what you can provide. The air between them shifted, became charged. Keisha set down her wine glass with shaking hands. Cole, I know this is complicated, he said softly. I know you have every reason to hate me. But Keisha, what I feel for you, it's not complicated. It's the clearest thing in my life. She should have pulled away, should have remembered why she came to New York in the first place. Instead, she reached for him. Show me, she whispered. His kiss was gentle at first, questioning. When she kissed him back, he deepened it, his hands tangling in her hair. She tasted like wine and possibility, and he kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Are you sure? He asked against her lips. I've never been more sure of anything. He lifted her easily, carrying her to his bedroom. Moonlight streamed through the windows, painting everything silver. He set her down gently, his hands reverent as they traced her face. You're so beautiful, he murmured, and the way he said it made her believe him. When he kissed her neck, she arched against him, her fingers finding the buttons of his shirt. He helped her, never breaking contact, never rushing. Every touch was worship, every kiss a promise. I've never wanted anyone the way I want you, he confessed as he traced patterns on her skin with his lips. She pulled him down to her, skin against skin, heartbeat against heartbeat. Then stop talking and show me. They moved together like they'd been made for this moment, like every broken road had led them here. When she called his name, it sounded like prayer. When he whispered hers, it sounded like home. Afterward, she lay against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. His fingers traced lazy circles on her back. No regrets, he asked quietly. Only one, she said, tilting her head to look at him. His body tensed. What? That we waited this long? When was the last time someone made you feel both safe and wild at the same time? That rare combination of security and passion? Share your thoughts below. But at 3 a.m., her phone lit up with a call from Alabama. Mama, she answered, trying not to wake Cole. The panic in her mother's voice cut through the night like a knife. Baby, someone broke into the house. They tore apart Rose's room, looking for something. I think they found what they were after. She thought she knew everything about her aunt's death, until her mother's terrified voice revealed a secret that changed the entire game. The private jet cut through morning clouds as they flew toward Alabama. Luxury and urgency made strange companions as Keisha stared out the window, watching the landscape shift from concrete and steel to rolling hills and memories she'd left behind. Your mother will be safe, Cole said, his hand covering hers. I've arranged security for her, discreet but effective. How do you just arrange security? Keisha asked, still amazed by his reach. Money opens doors. But more than that, I know people who know people. His thumb traced circles on her palm. When you have resources, you use them to protect what matters. She squeezed his hand. 3 days ago, she'd hated everything he represented. Now he was flying her home to protect her family. What if she doesn't like you? She asked as they began their descent. Cole's smile was soft. Then I'll work harder to earn her trust, just like I did with her daughter. Montgomery. Alabama greeted them with humid air and Spanish moss. Her childhood home looked smaller than she remembered, but her mother's embrace felt exactly the same. "Mama, this is Cole," Keisha said carefully. Her mother studied him with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "So you're the man who's got my baby girl twisted up?" "Yes, ma'am," Cole answered honestly. "And I intend to keep her that way, if she'll let me." Despite everything, her mother smiled. "At least he's honest. Come on, both of you. We need to talk." In Keisha's childhood bedroom, surrounded by nursing school certificates and family photos, her mother knelt beside the bed and pried up a loose floorboard. "Rose made me promise to give you this only if something happened to her," she said, pulling out a small metal box. Inside was a flash drive and a letter in Rose's familiar handwriting. Keisha's hands shook as she read. "Baby girl, if you're reading this, then they got to me. But I didn't go down without a fight. Everything you need to destroy them is on this drive. Don't let my death be for nothing. Make them pay for every life they've taken. All my love, Aunt Rose." Cole stared at the flash drive like it was a loaded gun. "Do you know what's on it?" Her mother nodded grimly. "Trial data they covered up. Names, dates, payments. Rose spent 2 years collecting evidence before they caught on." "This could destroy my family's company," Cole said quietly. "Good," Keisha's mother said firmly. "They've destroyed enough families already." Keisha looked between the drive and Cole's face. She held his family's destruction in her palm, but all she wanted to destroy was the wall between their hearts. "What do we do with it?" she asked. Cole was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but sad. "We do what's right, even if it costs me everything." Have you ever held someone's destruction in your hands? When doing the right thing means hurting someone you love, what choice do you make? Tell me in the comments. But as they prepared to return to New York, a news alert flashed across Cole's phone. Federal investigation launched into Maddox Pharmaceutical Practices. Someone had already leaked the story. His phone rang immediately, his brother's name on the screen. The voice was ice cold. "You have 24 hours to control your girlfriend, or we'll control her permanently." She held his family's destruction in her palm, but the only thing she wanted to destroy was the wall between their hearts. Back in New York, the penthouse felt different. Less like a sanctuary, more like a fortress under siege. Security cameras at every entrance, curtains drawn against telephoto lenses, love blooming in the shadows of corporate warfare. "We could run," Cole said, watching her study the flash drive. "Disappear somewhere they'll never find us." Keisha looked up from Rose's laptop, where files and documents painted a picture of systematic murder disguised as medical trials. "Is that what you want?" "I want you safe." "That's not what I asked." Cole was quiet, staring out at the city that had shaped him. "No, I want justice for your aunt. For all of them. But I won't sacrifice you for it." "What if I'm willing to be sacrificed?" "Then I'll tie you to this bed before I let you walk into danger." The heat in his voice made her stomach flutter, but she forced herself to focus. "Cole, look at this." The laptop screen showed a video file dated 2 years ago. Rose's face filled the frame, but she looked tired, scared. "If something happens to me," Rose's recorded voice said, "it won't be an accident. I've been documenting Maddox Pharmaceuticals' illegal trials for months. They're using poor communities as test subjects, then covering up the deaths. I have proof of payments to doctors, falsified death certificates, intimidation of families who ask questions." The video continued with Rose showing documents, naming names, building a case that would topple an empire. "She was so brave," Keisha whispered, tears streaming down her face. Cole pulled her against his chest, his own eyes wet. "She was just like you. We have to finish what she started." "I know." He tilted her face up to his. "But first, I need you to know something. Whatever happens next, whatever this costs us, I love you. Not the situation, not the drama, not the cause. You, just you." She kissed him then, desperate and fierce. "Show me." He carried her to the bedroom, laying her down like she was precious. In the afternoon light filtering through closed curtains, they loved each other with the urgency of people who knew their time might be limited. "I love you too," she whispered against his neck as he moved inside her. "I love your courage, your kindness, The way you choose what's right even when it hurts. We're going to get through this, he promised, his forehead pressed to hers. Together, together. When they finally emerged from the bedroom, her phone was buzzing with missed calls. The caller ID made her blood run cold. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Ms. Williams, the voice said when she answered. This is Agent Martinez. We understand you have information about Maddox Pharmaceutical. We'd like to meet. How did you get this number? We've been building a case for 2 years. Your Aunt Rose was helping us before she died. Cole grabbed the phone. This is Cole Maddox. If you want to meet, it's both of us or neither. Mr. Maddox, Agent Martinez said carefully. That's not how this works. It is now. When someone is willing to stand with you against the world, how do you handle that kind of loyalty? What would you risk for justice? Let me know your thoughts. The meeting was set for the next morning, but that night, Cole's phone rang again. This time it was his father's voice, shaky and scared. Son, they have me. Your Uncle Richard says if you don't bring the girl and whatever evidence she has, they'll kill me. You have 1 hour. They thought they were fighting a battle for justice until his family declared war on their love. Cole stared at his phone like it had grown fangs. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap, Keisha said, already reaching for her jacket. But it's also your father. My father who built his fortune on dead bodies. My father who probably ordered your aunt killed. Cole's voice was bitter, but his hands were shaking. Why should I save him? Because that's who you are now. The man who does the right thing, even when it costs everything. She was right, and he hated her for it, loved her for it. If we do this, we might not make it out alive. Then we better make sure this evidence gets to the right people first. Keisha held up the flash drive. I'm uploading everything to Agent Martinez right now. Cole watched her fingers fly across the keyboard, sending his family's secrets into the digital world where they could never be taken back. With each file that uploaded, he felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Done, she said. Whatever happens now, Rose's story gets told. They arrived at the Maddox family estate in the Hamptons as storm clouds gathered overhead. The iron gates and manicured lawns had never looked more like a prison. I used to play here as a kid, Cole said as they walked up the stone steps. I thought this place was paradise. Paradise built on other people's graves. The front door opened before they could knock. Richard Maddox stood there, no longer bothering to hide his cruelty behind expensive suits and fake smiles. Cole, and the troublesome nurse. Right on time. Where's my father? Safe. For now. Richard's smile was sharp as broken glass. But his continued health depends on your cooperation. They were led through hallways lined with family portraits. Generations of Maddox, men who'd built their empire on others' suffering. In the library, Cole's father sat tied to a chair, but he wasn't looking scared. He was looking guilty. Hello, son. Dad. Cole's voice was flat. Are you hurt? Only my pride. The older man's eyes found Keisha. So you're the young woman who's turned my boy against his family. I didn't turn him against anything, Keisha said firmly. I just showed him what his family really was. Richard laughed. Feisty. I can see why Cole's infatuated. But infatuation fades, Miss Williams. Family is forever. Not this family, Cole said. Not anymore. Think carefully, nephew. You give us that evidence, and everyone walks away. You refuse, and the nurse has an unfortunate accident. Car crash, maybe, or a drug overdose. These things happen to troubled young women all the time. Cole stepped in front of Keisha, his body vibrating with rage. Touch her, and I'll kill you myself. With what army? Richard gestured, and men emerged from the shadows. Security, muscle, the kind of people who solve problems permanently. That's when the lights went out. Emergency lighting flickered on as federal agents swarmed through every entrance. Agent Martinez's voice cut through the chaos. FBI, nobody move. In the confusion, Richard pulled a gun. Have you ever been in a situation where the good guys and bad guys weren't clear? When have you had to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right? But as chaos erupted around them, Cole saw something that made his blood freeze. His father wasn't struggling against his bonds. He was untying himself. The kidnapping had been fake. His father was part of this from the beginning. She trusted the federal agent with her life, not knowing he'd been bought and paid for by the same family trying to destroy her. The gunshot echoed through the mansion like thunder. Keisha hit the ground hard, Cole's body covering hers as federal agents and family security exchanged fire. In the chaos, she saw Richard Maddox fall, his gun skittering across marble floors. "Stay down," Cole shouted over the noise. But when the shooting stopped and the lights came back on, Agent Martinez was standing over Richard's body with a smoking gun. And he was smiling. "Excellent work, everyone," Martinez said to the other agents. Threat neutralized. Something was wrong. Keisha felt it in her bones. "Agent Martinez," she called out. "Thank you for—" "Don't thank him yet," Cole's father interrupted, finally standing free of his fake bonds. "He's been on our payroll for 3 years." The truth hit like a sledgehammer. The federal investigation, the protection, the promises of justice, all lies. "You played your part perfectly, Miss Williams," Martinez said, holstering his weapon, "leading us right to all the evidence your aunt collected. We couldn't find it ourselves, but we knew you'd eventually lead us to it. The flash drive is now in the right hands, meaning our hands." Martinez pulled out his phone, showing a screen full of deleted files. "Your aunt's evidence just disappeared from every server it was uploaded to. Amazing what money can buy in the digital age." Cole stood slowly, pulling Keisha up with him. "So what now? You kill us both." "Nothing so dramatic," his father said. Richard was always too theatrical. "No, son, you're going to walk away from this. Go back to your penthouse, your life, your billions. And Miss Williams is going to return to Alabama and forget she ever came to New York. And if we refuse," Martinez answered, "then we release evidence that she killed Richard in cold blood. Self-defense, of course, but her fingerprints are on the gun that fired the fatal shot. Funny how evidence works." Keisha looked down at her hands. Well, had she touched a gun? When had they? The memory flooded back. During the chaos, when Cole had covered her, someone had pressed something cold into her palm for just a second. She'd been set up from the beginning. "You bastards," she breathed. "We're businessmen," Cole's father corrected. Richard forgot that. He let emotions cloud his judgment. "We won't make that mistake." "What about Rose's evidence? The truth?" "What truth?" Martinez spread his hands. A mentally unstable woman collected conspiracy theories about a respected pharmaceutical company. Sadly, she took her own life when the delusions became too much to bear. People will ask questions. People ask questions every day. Very few get answers. Cole's hand found hers, squeezed tight. "We're not walking away from this." "Yes, you are," his father said sadly. "Because the alternative is watching the woman you love spend the rest of her life in prison for a murder she didn't commit. When corruption runs so deep that even the good guys are bought, where do you turn? How do you fight a system designed to protect itself? Share your thoughts." But as they were led toward the door, Keisha felt something in her pocket. Rose's old flip phone, the one she'd kept as a memento, and it had been recording everything. The question was, would anyone believe the recording of a dead woman's phone? The dead don't stay buried when they have unfinished business, and Rose Williams had a family to protect and a score to settle. As Martinez's man escorted them toward the door, Keisha's phone buzzed. Not her smartphone, Rose's old flip phone, the one that shouldn't even work anymore. The text message made her blood freeze. "Baby girl, meet me at the old clinic on 125th Street. Come alone. Trust no one else." "Rose, that's impossible," she whispered. Cole saw the message over her shoulder. His face went white. Dead people don't send texts. Unless they're not dead. The thought hit them both at the same time. What if Rose had faked her death? What if she'd been hiding, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike back? "We have to go," Keisha said. "It could be another trap. Or it could be the only family I have left." They slipped away from the estate during the confusion of cleaning up Richard's body. The drive back to Manhattan felt endless, hope and fear warring in Keisha's chest. The clinic on 125th Street looked abandoned from the outside, but light flickered behind blacked-out windows. Keisha knocked 3 times, paused, then twice, a pattern Rose had taught her as a child. The door opened, and Keisha's world shifted. Rose Williams stood there, older, thinner, but very much alive. Her hair was gray now, her face lined with exhaustion, but her eyes held the same fierce intelligence Keisha remembered. "Hello, baby girl." Keisha fell in her arms, sobbing. "You're alive. You're alive." "Had to be," Rose said, holding her tight. "Couldn't let those bastards win." But the funeral, the body. Jane Doe from the morgue, same height and build. Took some doing, but when you know the right people. Rose pulled back, studying Cole with sharp eyes. "This the Maddox boy who's got you twisted up?" "Rose, this is Cole." "Cole, my Aunt Rose." Cole extended his hand carefully. "Mom, I'm sorry for everything my family put you through." Rose studied his face for a long moment before shaking his hand. "You're not your family, son. I can see that." She led them deeper into the clinic, which buzzed with quiet activity. Nurses, doctors, activists, people who'd been secretly documenting pharmaceutical crimes for years. "Welcome to the real resistance," Rose said. "We've been building cases against companies like Maddox Pharmaceutical for decades. Your family's not the only one that thinks money can buy silence. The FBI bought and paid for most of them, but not all." Rose smiled grimly. "Agent Sarah Chun has been working with us for 2 years. She's the one who told us about Martinez's real agenda." An Asian woman in an FBI jacket approached them. "Ms. Williams, Mr. Maddox. I'm Agent Chun. We've been waiting for you. Waiting for us. Your aunt's death was faked to protect her and to bait the corrupt agents. We needed them to reveal themselves." Chin pulled out a tablet showing surveillance footage. Every conversation with Martinez was recorded. Every bribe, every threat, every illegal order. Cole stared at the screen. "You've been playing a long game. Justice isn't fast, son," Rose said, "but it's thorough. What happens now?" "Now." Rose's smile was sharp as a blade. "Now we take down everyone who thought they could buy their way out of murder. When the people you thought were dead come back to fight for justice. How does that change everything? Have you ever had someone return when you needed them most?" But Chin's radio crackled with urgent voices. "All units. Martinez is mobilizing private security. They're heading for the clinic. ETA 10 minutes. Rose's face hardened. "Looks like they figured out where we are. Time to see if you two are ready for a real fight." The man who raised him was either a victim or the architect of everything evil. And Cole had 10 minutes to decide which story he believed. "Everyone out the back," Chin ordered, but Rose shook her head. "No more running. We end this here tonight." "Rose," Keisha started. "Baby girl, I've been dead for 2 years. I'm tired of hiding." Rose pulled out a laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. "Chun, how long until your backup arrives?" 20 minutes minimum. Then we hold for 20 minutes. Cole grabbed Keisha's hand. "This is insane. We should run." "Where?" Rose asked without looking up from her screen. "They'll hunt us forever. Your father won't stop until we're all actually dead this time." "My father's not." Cole stopped. The truth hit him like cold water. "He is, isn't he? The mastermind behind everything." Rose finally looked at him, her expression almost pitying. "Son, your daddy didn't build a pharmaceutical empire by playing nice. Every trial that killed poor folks, every cover-up, every bribe, it all came from the top." "But he seems so." Cole's voice cracked. "He was a good father. Good fathers don't murder other people's children for profit." The sound of vehicles outside cut through the night. Keisha peered through a crack in the blinds. Black SUVs surrounding the building, men with guns taking positions. "They're here," she whispered. Chun spoke into her radio. "This is Agent Chun. We are surrounded and outnumbered. Requesting immediate backup." Static answered her. "They're jamming communications," Rose said calmly, still typing. "Good thing I expected that." "What are you doing?" "Uploading everything to every news station, social media platform, and government database I can reach. If we don't walk out of here, at least the truth will." Cole's phone rang. His father's name on the screen. "Answer it," Rose said. "Let's hear what he has to say." Cole put the call on speaker. "Hello, Dad." "Son, you're making this much harder than it needs to be. Send out the nurse and her aunt, and you can walk away from this. What about justice for all the people you killed?" A long pause. Justice is a luxury for people who can afford it. Those people are going to die anyway. Cancer, heart disease, poverty. We just accelerated the timeline while advancing medical science. Listen to yourself, Cole said, disgusted. You're talking about human beings like they're lab rats. I'm talking about acceptable losses in the greater good. You'll understand when you're older. I understand now. I understand that you're a monster. I'm your father. The voice cracked with emotion. Everything I did to build something for you. An empire, a legacy, built on graves, built on progress. Do you think insulin was discovered without test subjects? Do you think any medical breakthrough happened without sacrifice? Keisha grabbed the phone. Mr. Maddox, this is Keisha Williams. You killed my aunt. I freed your aunt from a life of poverty and suffering. You murdered her for money. I gave her purpose. Her death advanced treatments that will save thousands. Her death advanced your bank account. The line went quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was cold as winter. You have 5 minutes to surrender, or we come in shooting. When your parent turns out to be everything you never wanted to become, how do you process that betrayal? Can love survive the death of respect? The line went dead just as Rose's laptop chimed. Upload complete, she announced. Every news outlet in the country now has copies of everything. Even if they kill us, the story gets told. But through the windows, they could see Martinez's men getting into position. Cole counted at least 20 armed mercenaries. 5 minutes, he said quietly. Any ideas for a miracle? Sometimes the only way to stop a madman is to call his bluff, even when you're not sure he's bluffing. Actually, Rose said with a smile that reminded Cole of Keisha, I do have an idea. She pulled out a small device that looked like a garage door opener. This clinic sits on top of the old subway tunnels. I had some friends in construction install a few surprises when we set up shop here. Explosives? Chin asked, alarmed. Nothing that'll hurt anybody inside. But the tunnels underneath? They're about to become very unstable. Rose's finger hovered over the button. Your daddy wants to play hardball, Cole? Let's show him what happens when you corner desperate people. Through the windows, they could see Martinez approaching with a megaphone. You have 2 minutes, his voice echoed off the buildings. Send out Rose Williams and Keisha Williams, or we're coming in. Counter offer, Rose shouted back, holding up the detonator where they could see it. You back off, or I bring this whole block down. Martinez laughed. You're bluffing. Am I? Rose pressed the button. The ground shook like an earthquake. Car alarms shrieked as the street cracked and buckled. Several of Martinez's vehicles sank into newly formed sinkholes, and his men scrambled for higher ground. Jesus Christ, you call it brighten. Sometimes you gotta shake things up to get people's attention, Rose said calmly. Martinez's voice crackled over a radio they'd taken from one of his men. Fall back. Regroup at the perimeter. But the shaking had done more than create chaos. It had cleared the communications jamming. Chen's radio burst to life with multiple voices. Agent Chun, this is Command. We have your location. FBI SWAT is 2 minutes out. This is Homeland Security. We're moving in from the south. DA, tactical team, in position. Rose grinned. Turns out, when you upload evidence of federal agents taking bribes to every government database at once, people pay attention real fast. The sound of helicopters filled the air, searchlights cutting through the darkness. Professional voices shouted orders as legitimate federal agents surrounded Martinez's mercenaries. It's over, Keisha whispered, hardly daring to believe it. But Cole's phone rang one more time. His father's voice was desperate now. Son, please. I can make this right. I can fix everything. No, Dove, you can't. I'm your father. You were my father. Now you're just another killer who got caught. Through the windows, they watched as real FBI agents arrested Martinez and his men. Cole's father was led away in handcuffs, his empire crumbling around him like a house of cards. Mr. Maddox, Agent Shin said into her radio, you're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and corruption of federal agents. Cole watched his father's face through the window, defeat, rage, and something that might have been regret. How do you feel? Keisha asked softly, taking his hand. Free, he said, and meant it. For the first time in my life, I feel free. Rose put her arms around both of them. Sometimes the only way to save a family is to destroy it first. When justice finally comes, is it ever as satisfying as you thought it would be? How do you rebuild after everything falls apart? 6 months later, as they prepared to testify in the final trial, Keisha stood in the hospital where they first met. Cole found her there, holding a newspaper with the headline, "Maddox Pharmaceutical Executives Sentenced to Life." "Any regrets?" she asked. He pulled out a small velvet box and dropped to one knee. "Only one, that I waited this long to ask you to marry me." She said yes to the man who taught her that love isn't about rescue, it's about recognition. The small church in Montgomery filled with an unlikely congregation. Manhattan socialites sitting beside Alabama farmers, former enemies united by love and justice. Magnolia blossoms decorated the altar, their sweet scent mixing with the excitement of 200 people who'd watched this love story unfold in the headlines. "You ready for this?" Rose asked, adjusting Keisha's veil in the church basement. "I've been ready since the moment he chose justice over his family." "That's my girl." Rose's eyes sparkled with pride. "Your mama would be so proud." Keisha's mother had passed peacefully 3 months ago, but not before seeing her daughter's name cleared and her sister's killer brought to justice. Her last words had been about how proud she was of both her girls, Keisha and Rose. The wedding march began, and Keisha walked down the aisle toward the man who'd proven that some fairy tales are just delayed justice stories. Cole stood at the altar in a simple black suit, tears streaming down his face as he watched her approach. "You're beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "You're not so bad yourself, Mr. Maddox." "Soon to be Mr. Williams Maddox," he corrected. "I'm taking a name too." The ceremony was simple, their vows honest. Cole promised to always choose justice over comfort, love over money. Keisha promised to never let him forget where he came from or where they were going together. "You may kiss your bride," the minister announced. Cole lifted her veil, his hands shaking slightly. "Hello, Mrs. Williams Maddox." "Hello, husband." Their kiss tasted like forever. The reception was held at Rose's new medical center, the walls covered with photos of the families they'd helped get justice. The Rose Williams Foundation for Pharmaceutical Accountability had already prevented 3 illegal drug trials and helped dozens of families get compensation for their losses. "Speech," someone called out as they cut the cake. Cole stood, pulling Keisha up beside him. "A year ago, I thought I knew what love was. I thought it was about protecting someone, taking care of them, being their hero." He looked down at his wife. "Keisha taught me that real love is about seeing someone's strength before they see it themselves. It's about standing beside them while they fight their own battles, not fighting those battles for them." "And Cole taught me," Keisha added, "that some people are worth the risk of trusting again. That love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone perfect for you." Later, in their hotel suite overlooking the city that had brought them together, they made love as husband and wife. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss a celebration of everything they'd survived. "No regrets?" Cole asked, holding her close afterward. "Only one," she said, echoing their first conversation. "What's that?" "That we can't go back and warn our past selves how amazing this was going to be." He laughed, the sound rich and free. "I love you, Mrs. Williams Maddox." "I love you too, Mr. Williams Maddox." What does it mean to find someone who sees your worth before you believe in it yourself? How do you know when someone is worth rebuilding your entire life around? 1 year later, as Keisha held their newborn daughter, Cole whispered the question that had started it all. "Is this your first time being a mother?" She laughed through happy tears. "No, but it's the first time that matters." The nurse who once knocked timidly on his door now opened hospitals in her name, proving that some fairy tales are just delayed justice stories. 5 years after their wedding, the Rose Williams Medical Center rose from Alabama soil like hope made concrete. Its doors open to everyone regardless of ability to pay, and in the lobby, a plaque read, "In memory of those who died waiting for justice, and in honor of those who refused to let their deaths be meaningless. Mama Rose, 3-year-old Emma Williams Maddox ran across the lobby toward Rose, who scooped her up with the energy of a woman half her age. "There's my favorite grandbaby," Rose said, spinning the little girl around. "I'm your only grandbaby," Emma giggled. "Details," Rose said with a wink. Keisha watched from the reception desk, her second pregnancy just beginning to show. Cole appeared beside her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "How was the board meeting?" she asked. "Boring, but successful. We're expanding to 3 more states next year." He kissed her neck. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, happy, overwhelmed by how good life turned out." They built something beautiful together. The foundation had grown into a nationwide network of free clinics and legal aid societies. Cole's fortune, freed from his family's blood money, now served communities that had been forgotten by traditional health care. "Daddy!" Emma ran to them, climbing into Cole's arms. "Mama Rose says I could be a nurse like Mama when I grow up." "You can be anything you want, princess," Cole said, tickling her until she squealed with laughter. "Even a princess? Especially a princess. But you're already that." That evening, in their bedroom overlooking the medical center, Cole and Keisha held each other in the quiet darkness. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't knocked on my door that day?" Cole asked. "Sometimes, but then I remember that some things are just meant to be. Even with everything we went through, especially because of everything we went through." She turned in his arms, studying his face in the moonlight. "We didn't just fall in love, Cole. We chose each other every single day, even when it was hard. That's what makes it real." "I choose you," he said softly. "I choose you too." They made love with the tenderness of old married couples and the passion of new lovers, their bodies telling a story of survival, justice, and hope. "Mrs. Williams Maddox?" "Yes, Mr. Williams Maddox." "Thank you." "For what?" "For knocking on my door. For staying when I gave you every reason to run. For teaching me that the best love stories are the ones where both people save each other." Their love story became legend, not because it was perfect, but because it proved that courage and compassion could transform even the coldest hearts. The medical center treated thousands of patients. The foundation helped hundreds of families get justice. And their children grew up knowing that love means standing up for what's right, even when it costs everything. What legacy do you want to create? What would you build if you had unlimited resources and someone who believed in your dreams? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories that prove love can conquer systems designed to break us. Remember, the most powerful love doesn't rescue you from your life. It recognizes the strength that was there all along.